Okay. The Canola Project, Bill and Athena, Steen, in sunny Arizona, without a lot of trees. And we do, we work with mud and clay a lot. And there, we teach straw bale. We teach a lot of clay plasters. We both come. This is my mother on the left and Bill's mother on the right. And Bill comes from Mexico. His mother's from Mexico. Mine's Native American from Santa Clara. And they both come from traditions of a lot of earth. So this is down in Mexico. These are kind of like puddled or rammed earth.
No, they didn't ram.
What are
They
they?
knew better. It's just, they have the rammers.
Puddles.
And
Puddled adobe.
Roland wasn't there.
Puddled adobe. Pakime. Beautiful clay. It's also in Chihuahua ruins. All clay walls. Clay plasters still intact. These were original clay plasters. Because they were under the cliff dwellings and under the stone roofs and cliffs, they kept extremely well preserved. So zero extra plaster was done on these. It's also clay. Was it clay or the basket inside?
It's a greenery.
Greenery.
That's probably woven. No, come to think
I
it's
think there's a woven basket on the center. Wattle and daub type.
Yeah.
This is a photo of Santa Clara, where my mother is from. So this is, you can see a lot of earth buildings, earth ovens, no trees.
Northern New Mexico is where Santa Clara is.
Northern New Mexico. And this is from Santa Clara too. So they, of course, a lot of the women who did the plastering. It was a woman's job usually. So that's all clay. They usually do it once a year because you can see not a lot of overhangs. So there's not a lot of wood to do roofs. My whole family I come from a family of potters, so clay is definitely in our line. So this is actually from Santa Clara Pueblo too. Might be relatives, but this is my mother. She took it and did stoneware. She always believed in form. What is it? Function following form?
Yeah.
Or form following function? Which way does it go? So,
It just had to work.
yes. So unfortunately, what used to be very utilitarian in the old days suddenly became just tourist things, and they won't even hold water anymore, hardly. So my mother did stoneware. This is Taos Pueblo, again in New Mexico. All clay plaster, and they still get out every year and replaster with clay to this day. It's interesting that in my mother's native language, the word for people is the same word for clay, earth. It's known, and it's the same. So we were people who came out of the earth. Ooh, that's me on the left. So I invented straw bale. This was in, I don't know when it was, 1980? 83. Because a poor college student needed a place to stay, had 2 kids in this house. And then 8 years later, Bill informed me that I did not invent straw bale. But that Nebraskans had done it before I had, so we joined up. We started doing a lot of workshops, the way to stay alive. Wrote a book, went around and saw what everybody else was doing, and put a book together. And that book took us to let us down to Mexico, where there's a lot of wheat being grown and burned, and people living in shacks. Thought we can do better than this, right? And all that straw being burned, so we started building.
Sue us.
Right, building a lot of straw bale houses very cheaply, trying to train them using mud plasters. Oops, where is it? All mud plasters. And that led us to doing an office building with Save the Children, which was great. This was our education. This was our school. We got to practice play on this whole big office building and have earth plasters, straw bale. It moved. Actually had a lot of lime on the outside over the clay. All clay interiors, clay arches. We were just having we'd walk into a room, decide we want a roof like this, and we could spray paint windows, and they'd cut out the windows, and we'd build furniture because they didn't have any wood, and read arches for the ceilings.
It's a screen. The shelves are actually level.
So it was a collaboration for us with the Mexicans that literally that's what we still pretty much do today. We learned so much from that collaboration. Led to after the office building, we led to a cool project where a dozen women came together and they built each other's houses, one by one, 12 of them. And after it took them about 2 years, but a lot of strong clay. We'd every now and then come down and bring groups of people and hold a small workshop and help them out. And somehow, unlike you Irish or any of you here, able to dress like this and they'd go home. Clean, absolutely clean every time. Because they didn't have a washing machine, so they didn't know how to clean their clothes. But this some of the interiors. These little houses cost about $500, that we would raise the money for, and they'd get 2 windows and 1 door, right? And that was. And a lot and so of course sites that you're working with clay are great sites for women and children, right? And as soon as the cement comes out, somehow the women intelligently disappear somehow. Time to make tortillas or do something else. But so kids were always on the side. This young girl on the left.
When we started, that's her.
Yeah,
And
Juanita,
this is a few
she
years
became
later.
a master plasterer, you know. And this is just her, but all of the kids, theirs and ours, were at the same. So having kids on a building site, I think, is crucial, because how else do they learn how to, do it? Of course, you always have to play with some vaults and domes. So this is our straw clay blocks, kind of like an adobe, but straw clay blocks. And some vaults. This is our house in Arizona. A lot of clay plasters, clay walls. This is I'm gonna run through a bunch because these are just sort of a slideshow of buildings all on our site. They're more like just pretty pictures than anything else. Clay plaster, clay plasters, clay floors. All the sculpting done. You guys in the workshop might recognize the high fiber clay plasters. They're quite erosion resistant. There's some clay paints and clay floors. You can sculpt to your heart's content, different clays, different colors. This is a great little passive solar house. So the central is straw bale, but the central wall is adobe and the sculpted adobe bench. Carvings, shops, Japanese tools. Sometimes it does what I want, sometimes not. Fake thatch, right?
It's the extent of my patching.
Yes.
Do we have all that stuff?
We do. Oh, sorry.
Get tired looking at it.
Shower. This is a great thing just done this last spring by a Japanese plaster guy that came for a TV show. So it's all really coarse plaster, like with giant stones in it. And then the agave was a blue agave. That's inside. Sorry, you guys. We were doing some of the things. You guys were sculpting. So it's a rough, just the same that we use for the plaster mix, sculpted. Although if it's exterior, you can do it with a lime. It's adobe wall and a adobe snake. His last arrow. Yeah. Germany on the left. That one's kind of dying, on its way dying right now. So these are carvings that different layers of clay get built up, and then you slowly expose the underneath layers, carve away one. So sgraffito, you guys call it here. In the States, I call it carvings. But these are a bunch of carvings. I just did this one at home. It'll be on a video on YouTube soon. And my son did it. She did. Did this one in Canada. Reminded me, we just did one down there at the work site of a spiral, and it was way harder than I thought. But it reminded me of this one. That one was held too. Here's a 3-story tower, adobe, of my sister's gallery. And she does clay sculptures. So we did all the plastering. And she needed a movie theater, so we gave her a movie theater for her gallery. Clay made it to DC, which was great. This is at the Smithsonian Native American Indian Museum. And they were meant to, they're still up, but this was probably, 10 years ago? And they were meant to be ephemeral, so my aunt got the project. She's on the left. And this is me and one of my sons. And we would start with cob and then quickly, as fast as we could, move to adobe block. Get up faster, right? And then sculpt. And then someone, this is just recent, sent me a photo. And this is what they look like kind of maybe a year ago. And they're still there. So it's fun to watch them and see what they do in DC.
They're more than 10 years now.
Yeah. And some of them have changed. Like my aunt has recently replastered that a little bit. And this is another museum job we had 4 days to do something, so that was sculpting with just the clay, straw, over straw bales. Another museum job we got to do in Denver, and we had to do a playground in front so that the public could come help. So that's what we did. And on the inside at the same time, my sister was on the inside. That's her sewing those big straw wattles. Because the museum needed a clay sculpture of hers, but she couldn't do solid clay, it'd be too heavy. So we did straw wattles and then plastered it, and then she went on with her sculpture. Then we went to the Arboretum in Minnesota, so we did sandbags and more clay plaster, earth bags. We sculpted that little clay house. Do series of bread ovens. Yes, bread ovens. Pizza ovens. My two sons make pizza ovens.
That's right.
And there's them little, so they've been at it for quite a while. One loves to yell at the other one, so they can't work together anymore. So the son Benito, it's great to see them taking over. So that's all clay stencil that he does, is our work. And the other one is building houses. This is our adobe house, New Mexico. They built, 2 of them built for my mother. So all adobe, they did all the woodwork, everything. They actually did everything. Another little house they're doing. They did this nearby us. This is straw bale. With an adobe interior wall, right for mass. That's passive solar, and it's got clay floors and clay plasters. Sculpted clay, adobe benches, clay plasters, clay floors, everything's clay. Doing Mud
See
floor.
that, Paul? Were you back there?
Yeah.
See the trial? We had discussion earlier. We
Building.
rigidly enforce safety regulations.
Right. Building should be a family project, I believe, for sure. And that way you pass it on to the next generation, right? And we come around again. Well, thank you. I think that's it.
Good show, dear.